Gotta get her done. All right. Well, we were talking about a little bit about how like everybody's got a testimony. No matter what that testimony is, it's from God. You had mentioned that your life flipped in an instant.
Mm-hmm.
Is that? I think that's the words you used.
Yep.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what happened, how God pulled you through it, and what changed because of it?
Sure. So, like I mentioned, I grew up Catholic, and my family is very strong in the faith and remains strong in the faith. And so, went to church every Sunday, and God was always, like I said, like in the back seat. So always in the car, but not necessarily even in the passenger seat. Foolishly now I can say, and thank God, my life was very smooth and kind of orderly. And so in my head, I kind of thought that I was doing that, right? I had it together and I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing. And until it wasn't that way, so I think Nick is aware, but so 4 years ago now, out of the blue, after being very healthy, hiking and everything, I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic cancer, and given 2 months to live. And so, like, literally in that instant, everything changed, and I realized that I was not in control of anything. And I think, like a lot of people do, and like I said, it's almost embarrassing to say this, but I realized that I was not doing anything, that every single thing in my life is in God's hands, and I'm not doing anything without him. So, really then, at that time, is when I don't even know that I made like a conscious effort to say, I'm going to lean into my faith. It just happened that I felt just this feeling of like the only way you're going to get through this is with God, and to figure something out that you develop a relationship with God. So I started to look for other churches, and because I realized there's something out there for me. This just isn't it. That Catholicism fits a lot of people, but it didn't necessarily fit me or feel right for me or allow me to have like a true relationship with God, where God was not only in the passenger seat, but he was actually in the driver's seat, and I was just in the passenger seat going along with him. And so, I searched around and thank God found Fairview Village Church, and just really, and along with going to church, just started to open myself up to trying to listen. That was a huge difference for me. Just listen to what God was saying to me. And even if he said things that I was like, there's no way I can do this. Like an example was one time I was getting ready for work, and I felt like God just every morning kept saying, you should probably start like a prayer group before work, and I was like, I literally don't know that much. Like, who am I to start a prayer group, right? Like, I'm new into this. That's silly to do that. But I felt like every morning it just kept coming to me, like, you need to do this, you need to do this. And so I started to reach out and realize that in my work, where no one talks about religion ever, there were so many people that were like, yes, we would do it. Do it.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so it ended up being like a 30-person on Zoom for 20 minutes before the workday started. I would like pull over in a Wawa parking lot, and we'd all do this prayer group for like 20 minutes.
That's
yeah,
incredible.
and it was amazing. And I work in a school district, and so it was administrators and teachers and paraprofessionals and custodians, and like it was just whoever, and somebody would text me and say, I heard from somebody else that, you're doing this, and can I get in? And it just kept growing and growing, and God gave me whatever I needed to do it, just to keep it moving. So things like that just really started happening. The position at the church opening up where, that you needed a director, and I knew Sandy through one of my groups that I was in with her, and just things have started happening that I feel like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and then through this diagnosis that was like life ending, here I am 4 years later, completely cancer free,
Wow,
and
that's awesome.
and I really think that if I hadn't made that transformation, that wouldn't be the case. It really wouldn't, because that was what really got me through 100% when it just seemed really dark. Just keep knowing that, God had me now, and I could feel it, like weirdly it started happening that whenever I would start praying, I would start sweating. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't.
Yeah, prayer
I've noticed
sweats.
that too. I get hot.
You get the prayer sweats.
Really? Is that
close.
yes? That's a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I remember just like every morning, I always get up and say prayers in the morning. But when I first started, it was winter, and I would be sitting there, and all of a sudden, just like, oh my gosh, I am like drenched in sweat. What is happening to me?
Yeah.
So, but I was like, all right, well, something's happening. Like, that's not
Right.
So.
Whole milk or oat milk? Sorry to interrupt this.
That's okay.
Awesome.
Just give me a splash of whole, please.
Right,
Just a little splash.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really neat. So, would you say that there was like a moment where it was like, okay, I'm giving myself to Jesus now, or was it kind of like a gradual realization of His overall presence in your life?
It was both, right? Like so when I first got diagnosed, and all these people were reaching out to me, and I would answer, well, I'm really leaning into my faith. I'm really leaning into my faith. I'm really, like saying those things that you say. Thanks. And it was like, I believed it, but it was like I was just saying it and making myself believe it. So that was happening more and more. But then I would say the moment, and this is like really kind of like a raw thing, but I don't mind saying it. So the kind of cancer I had frequently goes to your brain. And so I had to get a brain MRI. And at that point, they thought probably it had gone to my brain. So they put me in a room, like a bare room by myself. I just had on like no clothes, no anything. I was in this MRI CAT scan thing and just sitting there. And I ended up sitting there for like a half an hour. And there was like just waiting like to go into this machine. And it just like, I just lost it. And I just kept, I was like in anguish praying to God, just like, I am giving you my everything here. Like I have nothing. I am stripped down, and I am spiritually stripped down too. Like I don't have anything to give you except to just say, please help me. And I'm giving myself over. And so I feel like that was the moment. And I did the thing, and I walked out. My sister was sitting there, and she was, how are you feeling? And I said, I'm okay. It's good. It's all good. This is going to be good. And that's how we move forward. So if there was a moment, that was probably the moment. Yeah. But it was also a gradual.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I feel like once I started putting it out there that I wanted to grow in my faith, all these people that I didn't even know had faith at my work and in my neighborhood, everybody just started coming towards me. And God started doing all these crazy, wonderful things, like to let me know He was there.
Yeah. That's really cool. I think a lot of people, when they want transformation, they think it's going to happen in an instant, and sometimes it does, like you did, but also God places people around us, and we have these relationships, and we have some work to do in seeking knowledge and wisdom and stuff like that. And so, like, wow, things do happen in, like, this zap from heaven way, but they also happen simultaneously in this day-by-day growth. So I think that's cool that, like, that's what you experienced, and I think sometimes people get disappointed if they don't get that zap from heaven, but there's still work to be done, even when we're waiting on it, or when we already had it and we're trying to keep going.
And you wonder, does the zap happen at a very low point? I think I don't know when I was thinking about this, but for one of the Bible studies, and we were talking about finding God in the lowest points, and it's like a seed. Like a seed can sit on your shelf forever and just sit there and nothing happens with it. It's only when you bury it deep in the dark and in the ground and then feed it, then it starts to grow. So it's almost like I always say, like, God must have been like, she is such a knucklehead and she's so hard-headed. Like, I need to like really give her like a push here because she is not getting it. She's just not getting it. So I feel like maybe for some people that's what has to happen. Like maybe you need to get to that spot. For people that don't, like you were talking about your wife, like that don't have it from the beginning, that
Yeah. I think so, for sure.
Yeah. One of the things I think you said that's really encouraging for people is, when you felt like God was calling you to do the prayer group, but you're like, who, me?
Yeah.
And, it's funny, Kate, because all of us feel like that. You know what I mean? Even though I've been a pastor for over 20 years, I still feel like, are you really sure about this, God? Are you really sure that this is what I'm supposed to do? But no matter where you're at in the journey, right? God can use you in whatever you're going through, and because it's by Him, not by you, that his work gets done. You know what I mean? And so just being obedient to that call is
That's a
is
little
encouraging
scary,
for people.
that thought, though, isn't it? Sometimes, like, I feel like that, like, maybe not for you, but, like, when I think about it, when I say that in my prayers, like, God, please use me today in whatever way you need to use me to help somebody. But there's, like, a moment of, like, how's it, like,
It's terrifying.
what if I'm not going to like how he uses
Yeah,
me? You
it's
know, like,
terrifying.
it's not always going to be, like,
Right.
beautiful rainbows
Right.
and, here.
Submission,
It's
right?
scary.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it is scary to,
Doesn't let it be
thank you.
followed.
You know, like, do you still get that feeling of scariness?
Yeah, well, I
or-
mean, I told God what I wouldn't do, and that's what I did for the next 20 years.
What do you mean?
Like I told God, I'll do anything you want. Send me to Africa. I do not want to do youth ministry. Just don't make me work with teenagers. I was terrified of teenagers because they're mean. At least I thought they were. And then that's where God put me for a lot of years. So
lot of years.
I learned that no matter how scary it is, again, it's Him doing it,
Yep.
not me. And so I can while the fleshy part of me can be scared, I can also at the same time be confident
Right.
in the Spirit.
Right, you can do
working through
two
me.
things at once, right?
Yeah.
I tell people that all the time in counseling. You can be two emotions at the same time. You can be grieving, but still try to find joy in every day.
Mhm.
You know, that's okay to do that because some people don't think that's okay. If you're
Yeah.
grieving, you should be grieving. But
Yeah.
no, you can be grieving and also joyful, or you
Yeah,
can be
right.
terrified and excited,
Right.
or you know.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
that
the
makes a
state
lot
I
of
find
sense.
myself in a
Yeah.
lot. Terrified and
Yeah,
excited at
terrified
the
and
same
excited.
time.
And it doesn't always put us in places that we're terrified of either. Sometimes He puts us in places that we're really gonna excel, places that we're gonna excel. Most of the time, if He places us somewhere, we're gonna excel there. But like for you were doing counseling for a long time, and now you touched on it. But God's placed you in this role as the counseling director at the church.
Yeah.
Something that you have been able to craft for a long time, and now you get to use it at the church for God, right?
Right.
So why don't you talk a little bit about that experience since you've started this role as a counseling director and how you've gotten to use those gifts?
It's been great. It really has, because it is a different feeling, because the thing that I love about this is that, so I'm also a director of counselors at my full-time job, right, at school. So I don't know, have a whole bunch of people under me that do counseling. But I can't ever really talk about God in any way, shape, or form at school. So the thing that's different about this job is that when I do supervision with the counselors, so I do like an hour of supervision a week, say, with each of the counselors, we can actively talk about like how God can work you through that.
Wow.
And how we can bring, and so that is
Wow.
so cool to me,
Yeah.
because I'm not allowed to talk like that in my
Right.
other job, and to be able to just openly talk like I talk in my personal life in a professional setting, to marry those two is really cool. You know, so that's
Yeah.
what's been really nice. And also to just take the program and, you know, Nick and I are working together on it and kind of growing it, and it feels like it's kind of coming into a nice spot, and the counselors have a good amount of people. We're not turning anybody away. You know, it seems like it's really working now. So
Yeah.
It's been really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How has it challenged you in your personal walk with Jesus, if at all?
This job?
Yeah, working at the church. Have you grown any? I mean, I'm sure you've grown, but is there
Yeah.
ways you've grown, or?
I don't know that it's like, that's a good question. I don't know. Has it challenged me?
Was it different than
It's-
you expected?
Only in that I enjoyed it more. I mean, because to be perfectly honest, so I have a full-time, very big job,
Yeah.
and
Then Nick comes knocking on your door.
right, and it kind of came to me, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, like, all right then. So, but I really enjoy it, you know, and it doesn't feel like too much, right? Like you even said that at the beginning. If it ever feels like too much, just let me know. But it just never does. It always works itself out.
Good.
You know, that it always. And there's been times where, you know, it's so good that it came in my life right at this moment, because with my other job now, I have the flexibility that, you know, I can work it in if I need to. If somebody from the church calls and they really need to talk, or a client here really needs to figure something out, I have the flexibility with my other job. So I don't know that it's been challenging. It's been, at first, I was a little hesitant
with
to
the
add it
schedules
in.
and-
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's worked out, because that's what God wanted
Yeah.
to happen.
Well, I can say just from talking with some of the counselors and even some of the clients that have felt safe enough to share with me the impact that the counseling center has made in their lives, you know. And so the counseling center was almost, because of COVID, it was almost like it was on its last leg,
Yeah.
you know. And if it wasn't for you coming in and some of the newer counselors coming in and sort of resurrecting it, the impact that it's made on some of the individuals' lives wouldn't have happened. You know what I
great.
mean? And so
Yeah.
just your obedience to God's call, even in knocking that or answering that when I knocked on the door.
Yeah.
You know, we'll never even know, you know, how
Yeah.
it carries on in people's lives and even affects the ones they come into contact with.
Well,
So,
and that just happened. Like, so I'm here, you know, now you guys are aware of the fact that I do counseling and what my position is. And so then Dave asked me to do, what is it called? The council with all the pastors. That
oh
come.
yeah, the
PCDC.
PCDC,
Right.
which
And
is a
then-
pastors conference
Right.
that we host here.
And
Yeah.
one of the pastors has a daughter who is trying to get into counseling and trying to decide where to go with it. So he told her about it, and then she called me this past week, and I'm meeting her next week to, you know, just kind of talk to her
Yeah.
about like
Great.
how she can
That's
kind
awesome.
of pursue it and in, you know, with a Christian base. So it's like that. I love that trickle down things that
Yeah.
happen like that,
Yeah.
because it makes it feel like that God wants that to happen. He
Yeah.
wanted me to talk to her, so he made that happen, you know.
Yeah.
So
It's like there's a plan.
yeah. It's like there's a plan. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Well, anything else on your heart you want to share?
Just that I feel like this is the time in my life that I feel the most fulfilled, you know, and it's just, I'm at the point now where I feel like, you know, there's always something. Now my thoughts keep coming to how can I bring my kids even closer into
Yeah.
God, you know, that kind of thing. But because now I know the difference between just being a person who goes to church every weekend and you just check that box and you're off to the rest of your day and you don't think about it until next Sunday, to like how much better their lives
Yeah.
can be. So I would say that's the thing. Now I know, so now I'm even like I gotta
Yeah.
keep going and get everybody into
Yeah.
this with me, you know.
Yeah,
So
it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, cool.
yeah,
Cody, I don't know if you know this, but I don't know if this is the appropriate time to share this or not.
Sure.
But and this must not have been very long after your diagnosis.
okay.
So, do you remember the night I met you?
When we were in the anxiety group thing?
No.
No, what?
No. It was Christmas Eve, and you had left your wallet here.
Oh yes.
And
yes,
I picked
yes,
it up,
yes.
and I'm like, who's Kate Coulter?
Yeah.
I don't even know this person. But I saw that she's actually lives near me. We're neighbors, basically. We live in the same town. And so I called her, and, you know, and
Yep.
then my wife happened to be on her way out the door. So you met my wife before you met me.
Right, in a
at the
Wawa.
Wawa,
She brought me my
where she
wallet.
brought you your wallet.
Yeah, I know, that's so funny. I know.
That's
You
awesome.
know, so that was the start.
And that's so funny because my husband was like, all right, do we need to go back to church? And I was like, no, they're coming to us. And he was like, that's so nice. Oh my gosh. And I was like, I know.
because it's not like a short drive
Right,
back.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's hilarious.
I know.
I've never heard that story.
yeah.
And now here we are.
And now here we are. Now
Yeah.
now we work together.
I know, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, Kate.
Of
I think
course,
this is
thanks
gonna
for
bless some
asking me.
people,
Yeah,
and,
me too.
Yeah, awesome.
And thanks
too.
for the coffee.
Yeah, it's
you're
good.
welcome.
It's delicious.